Hey everyone, it is Dani and I am here with the latest on what to expect for Tropical Storm BRET, which is intensifying. Headed to the Lesser Antilles, it will be bringing some impacts, life-threatening impacts at that. And so in this video, I will be covering all that you should know about this system in details. And so before I do so, please do subscribe if you haven't yet done so and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. And so guys, first things first, we're taking a look at what is currently going on in terms of the satellite for the Atlantic, and we're focusing a bit on the east here, the sections of the Eastern Caribbean extended to the coast of Africa. And we can definitely see that there is a train of activity looking into the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles. There is quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, and if you're wondering, no, it is not induced by BRET, but rather a tropical wave that is entering the region. So that is helping to increase instability and resulting in showers and thunderstorms from last night through to this morning. But there we can clearly see BRET inching closer and closer toward the island chain. As we look down into parts of northeastern South America, we see a bit of activity over sections of Venezuela, Guyana, and not much going on for Suriname and French Guiana. Going to a bit further east now, we see that there is Invest 93L, not looking too good, but it definitely has some of that disorganized shower and thunderstorm activity. And then emerging from the coast of Africa is yet another tropical wave, and some models are even picking up on this developing. I'll be going into that later down in this video when we take a look at what is anticipated for the model runs. But let's drift further into the Caribbean here, and we can see that there isn't too much happening right now across Hispaniola, going to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and sections of the Leeward Islands, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, and also Saint Eustatius, St. Bartholomew. So not too much seen in those areas. But as we head from Guadeloupe going southward, as far south as Grenada, inclusive of Barbados, we see some activity. So that tropical wave, this is like a sneak peek of what's to come, because there's a lot more on the way with BRET as it is going to be making its way into the area tomorrow. So looking into Trinidad and Tobago, we don't see a whole lot happening. For the ABC Islands, it's pretty clear. It should be a nice, beautiful sunny morning. I know that you guys there have been longing for the rainfall, so hopefully as BRET is going to be continuing westward, it will finally be bringing some well-needed rainfall to those three islands. And so looking further to the west now, in the vicinity of Central America, we see lots of activity over in parts of southern Mexico and Guatemala, going to parts of El Salvador, and even over into sections of Honduras and Nicaragua. Closer to the Caribbean coast, we can see some activity also down in Costa Rica and Panama. So lots of activity there. And as of right now, we're not seeing where there's a whole lot happening in other areas such as Jamaica, but we do see that cluster of some activity in the vicinity of the Cayman Islands, and also in parts of Cuba and into the Bahamas and even parts of Florida. There is quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity across some areas. But now let's go ahead and take a closer look at 93L, that disturbance, as well as Tropical Storm BRET. We're going to be starting out with the disturbance, and we can see here that the formation chance remains pretty high at 80%. So the National Hurricane Center states that this could become a depression within the coming days, and so as such, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Let's go on to the model intensity and track guidance. And so we can see here that models here are expecting that this will be missing the Caribbean and making its way up to the northwest, making that curve before it can have a chance to directly move into the Lesser Antilles. And please note that this can change with time. So we have to keep watching this, even though the main concern right now is BRET. And so in terms of the model intensity guidance, now we can see that most models here are expecting this to peak as a tropical storm, and they're all expecting that this would be a tropical storm by the 84 hours, next 3.5 days or so. So let's wait and see what's going to be happening with this, and if it will indeed become our next named storm. And the next name to be used is Cindy. So let's see if this is Cindy in the making. And let us now go on to BRET, which is the main concern of this video. So as we take a look at the satellite imagery here, we can see that BRET is looking pretty good right right now it is not the most excellent looking tropical cyclone, but it is still intensifying as it is approaching the Lesser Antilles. And so as of right now, let's go on to the cone forecast. As of right now, it has maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour, and it is moving a little bit slower. It's moving westward at around 16 miles per hour. And so we have our tropical storm watches in place for different islands, including Barbados, Dominica, Martinique, and St. Lucia. So tropical storm conditions are likely within all of these islands, and this watch should be upgraded to a warning later today. But BRET is going to be maintaining that westward track. It's going to be entering the Eastern Caribbean and weakening and eventually dissipating as it encounters a lot of that strong wind shear that's really just going to rip it apart. And so it is expected to also gradually increase in its acceleration. So by Sunday, it should be just to the southeast of Jamaica, and maybe if it has enough activity within it, we might get a bit of rainfall, but as of now, nothing major is expected, and this is likely to pass well south of the island and head over into Central America. The remnants there could head over into Central America and eventually over in the Pacific, where it could even aid in development over there. But as of now, we're talking about a strong tropical storm, and I think it still has a minimal chance of becoming a hurricane, but the NHC is expecting it to peak with winds of 65 miles per hour as it is going to be making its way through the Lesser Antilles. And so in terms of the hazards, there's going to be that wind, those tropical storm force winds across areas under tropical storm watch right now, which will be upgraded to a warning, as I said. And then there is going to be that rainfall, which is the main concern with this. So through Saturday, storm total rainfall amounts of 3 to 6 inches with maximum totals of 10 inches are possible across portions of the Lesser Antilles from Guadeloupe south to Grenada, including Barbados. The heavy rainfall could lead to flash flooding, especially across areas of higher terrain. Isolated urban flooding is also possible. So going from Guadeloupe southward to Grenada, there's going to be quite a bit of rainfall being induced by BRET. Heading more to the northern islands, the rest of the Leeward Islands, much rainfall isn't expected, but those bands are likely to bring some increased rainfall to the area. So it is not going to be dry right through as BRET is going to be making its way by. Just as how we're seeing those bands coming off of it right now, that is the kind of activity we're likely to see as it makes its way in. So you guys up there, maybe even going into the vicinity of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, could experience some increased rainfall, but nothing intense, nothing crazy is expected in that area from BRET. And so guys, now let's go ahead and take a look at what the models have to show as we're going to be progressing into the next couple of days, after which we'll be looking at current conditions out there and how they'll be helping to influence BRET's weakening, and I will call it that for this morning. So we're first taking a look at the GFS and the minimum central pressure that the model is expecting for BRET between now and when it is going to be making its way into the vicinity of the Lesser Antilles is 994 millibars. And so the current estimated pressure is 1001 millibars. Now, it is important to know that when we have the pressure being lower, when the pressure is decreased, it is usually a signal that the system is stronger. So they're inversely proportional to each other. And as such, GFS is expecting a bit more intensification of this. It is only short of 15 miles per hour to be considered a weak hurricane. So let's see if it is going to pull through on that. Again, NHC not expecting that it will intensify into a hurricane. But eventually, GFS shows a bit of weakening as we're going to be heading into late tomorrow, just in the vicinity of Martinique, about to make its way over the Lesser Antilles and inducing lots of rainfall. We see the pressure increasing, which means the system is getting a bit weaker, and it gets even weaker as it enters that strongly sheared area expected in the Eastern Caribbean, and eventually we have the system becoming an open wave making its way across the Central Caribbean. Again, if it has enough activity remaining, it could enhance the rainfall for Jamaica, but as of now, nothing major expected. And if you should look out of the vicinity vicinity of the Caribbean, there we can see that cluster of activity, not seeing those isobars, those black lines which join areas of equal pressure, not seeing them being tightly packed. So more than likely GFS is not expecting too much from Invest 93L at that point in time, and has it missed in the Caribbean. Going on to the Euro model here, as we're going to be heading into tomorrow, here we can see that it is expecting a minimum pressure of 999 millibars. Again, the current pressure is 1001 millibars, so Euro showing that it might be a bit stronger, maybe up to around 65 or even 70 mile per hour wind speeds here. And eventually, as we're going to be heading into tomorrow, the system is going to be making its way across the Lesser Antilles. So it's going to be bringing a lot of that heavy rainfall, those strong winds, and even some inundation, that storm surge along coastal areas. Nothing too crazy, because we're not talking about a strong system. And then as we head to Friday, now we can see that it is expected to enter the Eastern Caribbean, where rapid dissipation begins. Going on to Saturday, it gets even weaker. We see that other system popping out. So 93L, possibly a tropical cyclone at that point, seems very likely. And then as we head to Sunday, we see a bit of intensification, but the system is going to likely miss the Caribbean. Finally, we're looking at the Icon model here, and Icon is certainly not expecting something very strong here, and eventually has the system entering the Caribbean and rapidly losing tropical cyclone status as we head to Saturday. And eventually, as we head to Monday, we see the remnants making their way towards Central America. And the model is also not expected much coming from 93L at that point. So 93L has the potential to become a tropical cyclone, but in terms of seeing something very crazy from it, that seems pretty unlikely. And again, as of now, models are expecting that this will be missing the Caribbean. But I want to go out a bit further in time with the Icon model. We're going to next Wednesday, about a week from now, and we can see here that it is expecting another system. So again, we have that new tropical wave emerging from Africa. Now it can manage to survive and encounter some conducive conditions to allow for some intensification here, and that is exactly what the Icon is showing. And I also want to go to the end of the Canadian model, because it is also picking up on that, showing a stronger storm. And the Canadian isn't the absolute best model out there, but it is still important to pay attention to what is being shown. And so that is what they're expecting. And of course, as we take a look at the sea surface temperature map here, we can definitely see that the waters are warm in the vicinity of BRET. So it has been taken advantage of that. But again, as those thunderstorms develop, that wind shear is going to be coming in and just displacing activity and helping to rip the system apart. And even as we go onto the wind shear map, we can see here that BRET isn't in a region that is very unfavorable right now. So it has a small window of opportunity to strengthen some more. And eventually it is going to start weakening, and that dry air is also going to be boosting its weakening. And of course, I will continue to keep you posted on what to expect of the cyclone as we're going to be heading into the next couple of days. And so that is pretty much it for now. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I'll try to respond as best and as soon as I can. And remember to always be weather wise.